I'm here today just to tell you a story, actually. But before I do, I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm going to ask you to just take a moment and think of somebody who you miss. Somebody who, for whatever reason, can't be with you today. Just let them come into your mind. Chances are that we're all able to think of at least one person, and perhaps we also experience that familiar physical sensation, that little pang somewhere around here when we thought of them. We can all relate to that feeling, right? And despite the many differences between us, and even in this room, the list is endless, we are actually all the same when it comes to connecting to those common, basic human emotions: joy, pain, grief, love. And it's this connection, especially the emotion of missing someone, that is really the heart behind the story I'm going to tell you today. Started 25 years ago when I came out to Hong Kong for 2 years, another familiar story. And I was quite surprised to find that it was widely accepted to have full-time live-in domestic help, or a maid, as it was commonly referred to back then. And despite me saying I would never go down that route, I did, and I caved in, and I hired Gloria. Gloria was wonderful, and she turned out to be a lifesaver, actually, but I'll talk about that later. I'm a little bit ashamed to tell you how easily I got used to it and how quickly I got used to it. And I'll never forget the very first week that Gloria was with us, when I opened my drawers, and to my delight and surprise, I found all my underwear neatly lined up in neat little rows and all color coordinated. I'd never seen anything like that before, but don't worry, I'm not going to here to talk about my underwear today. You'll be pleased to know. That's another TED Talk. So I say I got used to it, but there was an element that I couldn't get used to. And that was that so many of these hundreds of thousands of domestic workers, coming mostly from the Philippines at that time, were mothers who were separated from their children for sometimes years at a time. And as a mother myself, I found that shocking. How could they? As any loving parent knows, and I am a loving parent, despite what my kids might think from time to time, we do whatever it takes to do what we think is best for our children. And these mothers are no different. In fact, they are making the ultimate sacrifice to do what is best for their children. And in their case, that means leaving their children behind and coming overseas to work as a domestic helper, even though they might be qualified in professions such as pharmacy, engineering, and accountancy. They're making this most difficult choice because sometimes it's the only way that they can actually earn enough to provide for their children and their families' most basic needs. My connection to these women grew stronger a few years later, when I too was faced with a very difficult choice in order to do what was best for my children. And in my case, that meant ending up as a single parent with 2 very small children in Hong Kong. My training, my profession is a music and drama teacher, so I was able to find fantastic full-time work so that I could support my children, although I had to take on extra piano lessons and drama lessons part-time just so I could make ends meet. And I was really, really struggling to stay on top of everything. And this is where Gloria turned out to be my lifesaver. She stuck with us. She supported me. She cared for my children. She held our family together. She was loving. She was patient. She was so patient. And she was so kind. And I will always, always be grateful to Gloria for that. And no matter how hard the day had been, I always treasured the moment when I finally got my kids to bed, and I would read them a story and give them a cuddle, and I would kiss them goodnight. And then I'd go and breathe a big sigh of relief, and more often than not, pour an even bigger glass of wine, and just be so grateful that I'd made it through another day. And that's when it really dawned on me that so many of these mothers, these domestic helpers, these workers, were missing that moment, that tender, precious moment when you kiss your children goodnight. And that's probably where the song began to form, although I didn't do anything about it for quite a while. And over the years, I kissed my children whenever I could. And as they got older, whenever they would let me, or I would let them. And before I knew it, they were both off to university. And it was then, when I was sitting in my empty nest, feeling very sorry for myself and really missing them that I reconnected, and I was reminded of how many of these mothers, these domestic helpers, must be feeling that feeling we connected to at the beginning, missing their children on a daily basis. I'd always wanted to find a way to show my gratitude and to honor and the sacrifice that so many of these women were making in putting other people's children to bed instead of their own. And what better way than through the power of music, the universal language, the song. Music is more than a job for me. It's my passion. It's in my blood. It's in my soul. I compose and I play. I use it to connect. I use it to disconnect as well. And sometimes I find myself even thinking in music. And so I had this song, sort of, based on that moment you kiss somebody you love goodnight. And then I had an idea. I needed someone to sing it, so I had the idea of the Unsung Heroes, a choir for domestic helpers. And so I mentioned this idea to a few people in passing, one of them who happened to be the organizer of a big music event out here called Picnic in the Park. And she came back to me and she said, "Oh, Jane, you know that idea you had with the Unsung Heroes and the slideshow and the song?" I said, yeah. She said, "We really like it. And we would like it to be the big surprise finale event at the beginning of November." This was September of the same year. And at that stage, I had a bit of a song, but I didn't have a choir. So then I had to set about recruiting a choir. And with 370,000 domestic helpers in Hong Kong, I thought it would be a bit like the X Factor auditions. But the reality was quite different, and it was so slow to get off the ground. And I even gave up this whole mad idea. But slowly word spread, and I think the spark was ignited, and they came to trust that I wasn't just some crazy do-gooder on a mission. Well, there may be some truth in that, a little element. And by the time Picnic in the Park came along, a few weeks later, we had nearly 60 members and a song which had evolved as I'd got to know the choir. And so we had our first performance at Picnic in the Park. And if I thought that was going to be the end of it, which I did as a one-off project, I was very much mistaken, because things just began to snowball from there at an alarming rate, actually. And people were so kind, they wanted to help, they were interested, they were so generous, including a very talented colleague of mine who wanted to make a little video about it. So he recorded the song, and then we added some interviews with the ladies in the choir. And I'm just going to show you this bit.
My message to my children, it's relates the song that we are singing for them, the Unsung Heroes. I wish I could kiss them goodnight every night.
So we put this up onto YouTube, and we weren't quite ready for the massive impact that it had. I tell everybody it went viral, but then I looked up what the official figures were for viral. It didn't, but you can think it went viral-ish. Everybody believes me. So it led to so many things. It was incredible. It was picked up by the media. The Unsung Heroes were asked to perform. It was used in schools in England and in the Philippines. And it also is what led to a film offer. I mean, it's not every day you get a film offer. Quite like that. And so it's how the Unsung Heroes became the face of a major feature documentary called The Helper. And so this film followed the Unsung Heroes through a journey and their stories towards the performance of a lifetime at Hong Kong's biggest music festival, Clockenflap. Thank you. So Clockenflap is the biggest music festival in Hong Kong, alongside some of the most famous bands and rock legends. And what a day that was. It was the most incredible day. The ladies were treated like royalty. They had their hair and makeup done. We had a private coach, and we arrived into Clockenflap, and we found we had a hospitality tent with our own waiters. And then we went out and performed in front of thousands. And it was incredible. In fact, I'd written another more cheerful song at that time, because the first song had everybody weeping into their plastic beer cups. And we had to end on a cheerful note. And so there it was, and it was incredible. And then the film was released, and once again, the Unsung Heroes were the subject of international media attention. I'm not going to name drop or anything. Yes, I am going to name drop. Al Jazeera came and filmed us in rehearsal. CNN, we were mentioned in that, in Le Monde, in papers worldwide. And we're just now wondering when we're going to get an invitation onto the Ellen show. I'll put that out there. Yeah. Are you watching? But the real magic that was unfolding was that through the power of music, through this song, the unsung heroes had found a voice. And their stories were being heard, and people were listening. But more than that, when I asked them, what has being in the choir given you? They said, status, dignity, friendship, joy, love, a chance to show that we're more than just helpers. And for me, also, it's given me so much. I've changed, I've become humbled. And I've been so touched by the generosity of these women and what they've brought to me in my life, fun and friendship and joy. And I'm so touched by what they've given me. And so to the big idea. As you know, you've been sitting here all day. Every speech has to end with a big idea. Well, I got really stuck on this. And I thought, what is it? Is it the power of music? Is it common humanity? Is it giving back? Is it equality? I got so stuck, so I cheated. And I asked the unsung heroes. I said to them, I sent them a text. I said, can you please tell me what you think is the big message here? And they did. But it was really interesting, actually. What they came out with was more or less all the same thing, and it was this: treat us like human beings. Well, it's not too much to ask for. We can all make a difference, even by the smallest act. You don't have to write a song or run a choir, but you could be sharing your own passions and your own strengths for the unsung heroes in your lives, whoever they might be. Or it could be something as simple as showing a bit of respect, compassion, or helping someone just to feel worthwhile and valuable. And if that's all you can do, if that's all we can do, it's enough, isn't it? So, to the choir. This is a choir. This is not a choir of domestic helpers. This is a choir of brave, courageous, valiant, loving, beautiful women. Singing. Singing, I wish I could kiss you goodnight, ladies and gentlemen, the unsung heroes.
As I lie awake at night and look up at the moon, think of you so far away, I hope I'll see you soon. When I lay my head beside you, I will see you smile. When I lay my head beside you, stay a little while. If I could be anywhere else than here today, I would be beside you, I would find a way. But if I had one wish, it would simply be this: I wish I could kiss you goodnight. simply be this. Wish I could kiss you goodnight. Wish I could kiss you goodnight. Say goodnight to your loved ones. Don't let them fall from your dreams. If they are far, send your love star across the oceans. A kiss. I said, hold on tight to your loved ones. Don't let them slip from your arms. If they are far, send your love star across the oceans. A kiss. If I could be anywhere else than here today, I would be beside you. I would find a way. But if I had one wish, it would simply be this. I could kiss you goodnight, baby, sleep tight. I wish I could kiss you. You know that I miss you. I wish I could kiss you